uncertainty.
The legal aid managing attorney says the economic impact payment system wasn't set up with low-income earners in mind.
It's almost as if it's just occurring to the Treasury and IRS as they go along, that not everybody fits the kind of cookie cutter tax filer with a bank account that they were thinking when they created this.
Local 12 spoke to more than a dozen low-income earners to see whether they have received their stimulus check and a bank account.
So here's the news. The lawmakers are taking huge action this week. The Democrats and Republicans are discussing plans that would help cut poverty in half, and states have established new crisis relief programs aiming to provide relief to the low income. This comes with extra stimulus cash and extra money in their bank. But now many of the crisis tax benefits from the past 2 years, like the expanded tax credit and temporary expansions to the child and dependent care credit and federal stimulus payments, all ended in 2021. A community refund will be a little bit smaller this year. And some Americans may find themselves owing taxes again. And according to Mark Stebner, a tax expert for Jackson Hewitt, next year a lot of things are put into place for 2021. And some part of 2020 will revert back to its pre-crisis years. It can lead to a refund shock, or even more importantly, balance due shock. In addition, some new regulations were put into place. Student loan forgiveness, for example, is exempt from federal taxation, and borrowers in some states owe taxes. One of the changes is that the standard deduction for 2022 is higher. It's typical for the standard deduction to increase a little each year, along with the rate of inflation, for your 2022 tax return. The standard deduction for single filers has been increased from $12,000 to just $12,950. That's up by $400, and it has bumped by $800 if you're filing married jointly. The standard deduction is what most taxpayers will simply have with a simple tax return in order to claim and reduce their taxable income. Income tax brackets are also higher in 2022. For 2022, income tax brackets were also raised to account for inflation. Your income bracket to how much tax you owe, based on your adjusted gross income, is the money you owe before taxes are taken out. And while the changes were slight, if you're at the bottom of a tax bracket, you may have bumped down to a lower rate for your returns. And while 2021 had a temporary expansion of the tax credit, including eligibility for more dependent credits and offering advance payments, it isn't the case for your 2022 taxes. The child tax credit has already dropped back to its pre-crisis amount, which is $2,000 per child, and now available to people 17 and under. The credit, which was fully refundable last year, is only refundable for a certain amount of people, meaning not everyone gets a stimulus payment this time around. Offering an important note that you can still claim the tax credit in 2022. It may help boost your refund and offset a tax bill. And while federal benefits have decreased, the states are offering child tax credit benefits this year next. The governor of Vermont has signed a tax cut package, and it will send $1,000 to every child 5 and under to Vermont households making $125,000 or less. And with federal stimulus money spending flooding into the states and boosting tax recipients, the Democrat-controlled legislature and Republican governor agreed on something that they're usually at odds over. It's cutting taxes. The House initially sought to spend nearly $50 million, almost entirely dedicated to the tax credit alone. The Senate responded with a $36 million package, only $22.5 million of which would have gone to the credit. In 2022, lawmakers in New Mexico and New Jersey even created the new child tax credits. And now, like California, Jersey, and Vermont, credits are permanent, and with New Mexico scheduled to expire in 2027, people will be receiving stimulus money for a long, long time. And despite variation, these state credits represent a meaningful first step in enhancing economic security and general well-being of children across the country. The lawmakers can reduce child poverty in their states by enacting and enhancing state credits. And this the end, everybody, for stimulus payments, or will it be more stimulus payments in 2022? I'm not sure, folks, but one thing I do know is that stimulus payments must do more and must be sent out quickly.
America, it's personal for so many of us and our families. This is the tie I wore to my daughter's wedding to her wife. Trying to not spill anything on it, which I often do, but so far so good. And my daughter and her wife are expecting their first child, my third grandchild, next spring. I want them to raise their child with all the love and security that every child deserves. Thanks to the dogged work of many of my colleagues, my grandchild will live in a world that will respect and honor their mother's marriage. And look, nothing about the respect for marriage was inevitable. On the contrary, it took a lot of faith and some risk-taking to get to this point. When I made the choice to delay, I had to rely on the better angels of human nature, to say people knew this was right, and if we delayed and didn't just put down a symbolic vote, people would rise to the occasion, and praise God, they did. So, because of them and millions of Americans out there today who pushed for change, history will be made at the White House later today. Ready? Now let me call on Dick Durbin.
Thanks, Chuck. Today we have approved the 97th federal judge during the Biden administration, setting a new record. 12 more judges than Trump in his first 2 years, and dramatically more than Obama in his first 2 years. You have to go back to the Clinton era to see 2 years more productive for judges. But of course, it was a different story then. Over 100 of the judges approved in the Clinton era were by voice vote. We should be so lucky. But these 97 judges are a step toward rebalancing the court, and we hope that even more will be approved this year. We also have 29 still remaining on the calendar, which we're going to do our level best to help before the end of this session, and I have 8 more ready to be reported from the committee right after the first of the year. We're taking this very seriously. We're going to rebalance.
So Republican lawmakers are now getting upset at President Biden for signing a new executive order that would actually allocate billions of dollars towards a new stimulus relief program for the people. President Biden is now criticizing Senate Democrat Manchin for not making the Build Back Better bill his top priority. Republican lawmakers are now getting upset at President Biden for signing executive orders that would allocate billions of dollars towards a new stimulus relief program, all for the people though. And President Biden has now accused Manchin of West Virginia for his backpedaling his support on his economic agenda during a critical meeting. The high-stakes meeting came as the pair negotiated on Biden's $2 trillion Build Back Better spending plan. President Biden has criticized Joe Manchin for backtracking from an earlier pledge he made to support the massive spending package. Senate Democrats intend to try once more to win over Manchin on a smaller spending bill focused on cutting prescription costs, reducing the deficit, and stepping up taxes on the wealthiest Americans. Manchin has floated a new deadline to pass the bill. Biden has told reporters that he believes Congress can pass some big chunks of his sweeping social safety net and climate spending plan as soon as this month. The president acknowledged that passing his other legislative priority voting reform will be difficult. Still, he insisted that Democrats have options to get it passed. During a news conference, Biden said it's going to be difficult. I make no bones about that, and it's going to be difficult, but we're not there yet. What are your thoughts on the current status of the Build Back Better? And I think President Biden can actually get his job done and send out more stimulus checks this year. It's definitely possible. During an interview with Mitch McConnell said, "I think this country ought to remind the people that we all pay our debts." McConnell was likely referring to last week President Biden extended a pause on student loan payments with waived interest through August 31st. It's the 4th time he's extended while in office and first implemented by the former president as a form crisis of relief. The pause was intended to give federal borrowers financial breathing room as they dealt with the crisis, while Biden answered the calls of many Democratic lawmakers who were pushing for another extension.